Good day, all. Good day, good day, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. For whatever time you're watching this, today is September 21st, 2025. And my name is Eden Corbin, and you are on the Nation Watch, powered by the People's National Congress Reform. And we have a packed program for you today. Now, before we start off, just a little bit of housekeeping. I would like to extend my most warmest thanks and appreciation for Mr. Mervyn Williams for the time he has spent on this program. And I would like to thank him especially for making room for nice, young, and vibrant persons such as myself to carry on the mantle. Without further ado, I have two distinguished gentlemen here to my left, and we have a packed program today. We have a lot of things to discuss. I think both of these young men, as my seniors within the party, they produced a lot of great advice to me throughout the time of the campaign. And we are here to discuss a few things. So, to my immediate left, I have none other than the Honorable Ganesh Mahi Paul, who will be joining the Parliament of Guyana very soon, very shortly. And next to him, we have Attorney at Law, Mr. Ronald Daniels. Good afternoon, gents. How are you guys doing?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm sure Ron will express similar sentiments. And I'm not new to Nation Watch. I must tell you, I've been around since the days when Malika Ramsey was the host,
Yes.
and then we had Shanika who hosted for a couple of mornings, Marvin Williams, and now here you are. So we are giving rise to new leadership, as I always say, right? When
Sounds like big
this,
shoes to fill.
yeah, the space is there for young, vibrant leaders, and I really, really do appreciate sitting in your company and to join with this program as we speak to the Guyanese people about the PNCR and how we're moving forward.
Awesome. Ronald, any opening remarks?
Certainly, good afternoon to the viewers. Eden, it's always a pleasure to sit and chat with you. And I just want to commend you for taking up the mantle. As a matter of fact, my political debut was on Nation Watch with Mr. Williams at the Square of the Revolution when we launched our campaign.
Correct.
So I want to take the liberty to honor Mr. Williams for his contributions towards the growth of this program. And of course, I also want to commend you again for taking up the mantle and, taking us to where this program is going to go now.
Awesome. So we are here, for those of you who could see it, we are in a very historical part of Guyana, one that is tied and linked to the history of the People's National Congress Reform. And I think it would not have been, there was no other place for us to do it than right here, as we are immersed in the deep and rich history. And while we're on that point, we will be discussing today regrouping, restructuring, and moving forward and growing the People's National Congress Congress reform to the place where it was. So Ganesh, I mean, between the three of us here, you are probably, well, not probably, you are the most experienced and familiar with the party's history. So I would like to just pick your mind a little bit. I know that coming out of the last elections, the results, as many would know by now, did not really sit well with a lot of persons, both internally and externally. And based on that, I would like you to just briefly explain this particular result that we get. And we want to know, is this something that is new to the People's National Congress reform?
I thought for a moment you were going to say the oldest. But let me say this. Yes, I've been around for quite some time, and I have been rubbing shoulders with some great minds of the People's National Congress reform. I'm forever grateful for the lessons learned. And I know that this is a party that is 70 years old. History has recorded that in 1955, there was really the split of the PPP. And that really gave birth to the PNC, which started off as the PPP Burnhamite. And Fobbs Burnham left us a strong, resilient party that is grounded in principles. And as we move forward, we have seen and we have gotten lots of experiences. Even at the time, I've read and heard from great minds like I rubbed shoulders with the late great Winston Shripal Murray, and several other high-ranking PNCR members. And I've read that even when Forbes Barnum was leader, prime minister, and president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, he had real challenges coming from within the party, from members. Desmond Hoyt had it also. Robert Corbin had it also. But there wasn't technology per se, social media,
Correct.
Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, whatever you have there now, that allowed people to see it from the outside. But you had real strong battles internally. And David Granger and Aubrey Norton are no different to what happened to the past leaders.
Mm-hmm.
However, today's society, it is unfortunate that members find it comfortable to go in the public space and speak their mind, believing that that is going to bring some degree of fixing. I think it does more harm than good. And I think it also seeks to probably seek sympathy for them, but it will not destroy an institution that is 70 years old. What it will do is give rise to new leadership. What it will do is bring this new leadership into a broader spectrum of understanding what is before them and how they can move forward. These elections, really and truly, several factors contribute to where we are. Without a doubt, the APNU presented to the nation the best manifesto when compared to the other political parties. The APNU had the best team when compared to the other political parties. But fundamental was respecting the principles of the party. And you have members who, unfortunately, were not satisfied by the membership's choice. And if you move down that road of not accepting the membership's choice, then you are not really embracing a democracy. The PNC in its structure has a Congress, they have General Council, they have the Central Executive, we have regional committees, and the structure goes down. The membership of the party elected Aubrey Compton Norton. The membership saw substance in him. And unfortunately, you had a couple of members who did not like that choice, but they never embraced it. And they started to, bring it into disrepute by way of going to social media and using the public space to do harm. That contributed to where we are right now.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, you have the situation of money playing a significant role in all that happened also. People may not believe, but in these elections, we as a party, we spent close to or there about $300 million for the campaign in total. The PPP and WIN, I'm sure they spent in the billions of dollars. So there was that difference also in resource spending and, having the resource to do the necessaries. And you have to understand that part of rebuilding, restructuring, and rebranding requires us to take all of these circumstances into perspective and move in the direction of really adapting to what is before us. And with young people like yourself, I believe I'm fairly young also. Ronald is relatively young also. I do believe that we possess what is necessary to move this party forward. And that is why at this juncture, we have to ensure that there's a smooth transition. You cannot, and I've seen some people doing it, you cannot want to suddenly call for the leader's head and to say that he must go, he must go. When he goes, what happens? The structure is there for us to have a transition period. And there is where the Congress comes into play. A Congress has to be summoned. But you don't just wake up one morning and say tomorrow is Congress. You have to put some planning into it. You have to get resources to pull off the Congress. Our party has members all across Guyana and the diaspora. Mechanism will have to be put in place to get them to one central location. And there are a set of things that will have to be done to ensure that you have that Congress. And that is why Aubrey Norton needs to be there still to steer the ship. A captain don't just jump off his ship. That will prove wrong of him. I think, and if we look back into history, we will see that David Granger, when he left, he didn't just leave. There was a process that led to that. Unfortunately, well, Robert Corbin also, there was a process that led to that. When Corbin took his leave, there was a process. Unfortunately, Hugh Desmond Hoyt died and Fobbs Barnum died. But you can see from the previous leaders that there was a process. And my simple appeal to the PNCR comrades is to allow the system to work, allow the process to work, allow the structure to work. And once you do that, we will transform ourselves and we will once again sit on the highest point of this political realm, and we will dominate with policies, programs, and projects that can benefit the people of Guyana.
Now, let me just interject a little bit. You mentioned about the structure and you talked about the funding. So, Ronald, I want to pick your brain. You know, you're a person. We've had several conversations, and one of the main things that you continue, even when we came here a little earlier, you talked about structure, you know, the timings and those things. What are your thoughts as a relatively newcomer into the political space about the issue of the structure? And let me preface my question a bit. You know, I hold the belief that it's the easiest thing to do is to criticize, because it requires no amount of thought. It requires no amount of, you know, observation or anything. You just have to say negative things, and you just have to basically, you know, put down others. As a relatively newcomer, right now, there is no doubt about it. The party is under a lot of heavy criticisms, both internally and externally. What are your thoughts about whether or not the current structure that we have is feasible to facilitate the points that Ganesh were making in relation to the transitioning and building a new party, or not well building, but regrouping and restructuring? What are your thoughts about our current structure?
So I want to make a couple of observations in that vein. Now, a party is dynamic. So there's obviously going to be changes throughout the course of the existence of that party. And the party is also relational. So like every other relationship, there is going to be tension. The fact that you're dealing with diverse personalities, diverse value systems, diverse perspectives, you are going to have tension. When I think about this phase that the party is going through, I think about a marital relationship, for instance. We know that when you have a marital relationship or even if you have a close friendship and things go bad in that relationship, you speak your truths internally, you seek intervention so that you can reconcile and iron out whatever differences you have. And if for whatever reason that relationship becomes irreconcilable, you don't run out into the street with a loudspeaker criticizing your wife, she has done this, or the wife criticizing her husband. I have a difficulty with that. What it tells me is that some of us are our own worst enemies, and I can say that crudely. I'm certain that the other political outfits have structural issues as well. but they've done a good job. Persons understand that there must be fidelity to the party. And fidelity to the party doesn't necessarily mean that you must agree with everything that goes on. I could have fidelity to my relationship, but I am still looking to strengthen and build and mend cracks where there are cracks. So I know a lot of persons are lamenting the loss of certain persons. Forgive me, but I'm not one of those who is participating in that lamentation. I think that a key part of rebuilding is for those who fancy themselves to not be loyal to that outfit, loyal to the entity, or loyal to the movement, to separate themselves from that movement. And we have been having that. I'm keen on giving honor where honor is due. Anybody who has positively contributed, we support those contributions. But if you're at a point where you think that you should move off of the ship, then we ought to respect that and we ought to keep moving forward. Now, the most crucial part of our structure is one of loyalty. And we have to cultivate loyalty. We have to appreciate that the party is bigger than our personal aspirations, is bigger than our personal ambitions. So even when those aspirations and those ambitions are not made manifest, we don't look to destroy the party, certainly not from the inside and certainly not from the outside. And a lot of our colleagues and comrades, they don't appreciate, quite unfortunately, that when they criticize the party or try to destroy the party internally and externally, they're destroying themselves in the process. Because just a short time ago, you were there saying to me that, and saying to people that, this is the best outfit to represent the people's interest. And by the click of a finger, when an outcome doesn't suit you, you're saying something that is radically different. Right? So we have to really introspect as individuals and introspect as a party. I know we've already engaged that process of conducting a really honest postmortem as to what has transpired, right, as we rebuild and we reconstruct. Now, one of the things, and I'll comment in the vein that Ganesh was commenting just now, we don't understand how difficult it is to lead, and the heavy responsibility is on the shoulders of the leader. We see things from the outside and we think it's all hunky-dory because we have, certain criteria that we want things to abide by, and they don't abide by those criteria, then we jump to criticize the leader. Our leader has been facing tremendous internal and external struggles, and I commend him for standing up to those struggles and standing up resolutely and to keep pushing forward with his mandate and to keep pushing forward with his mandate with honor and with dignity. Now, he has to be commended as well for making way for fresh blood, for younger talents. He's already said, I'm not going into parliament. He should be commended for that. And a lot of people don't appreciate the fact that he's 1 year away from being pensionable in parliament. He could simply say, well, if I'm just thinking about me, let me go for the year and then have somebody step in. He said, no, at this juncture, I am making room for other people. I'm making room for both experience and inexperience so we can have a formidable team in parliament. He has shared with us the criteria, he shared with us the thoughts that went into
making
selecting those 12 persons. Right, he has said that he's not interested in running for the presidency again. And whatever decision he makes at the upcoming Congress, that's a matter for him. But as long as he is leader, we have a responsibility to contribute to his success until that changes through the systems we have in place for that change.
And I love that point you made, in relation to fidelity. And I think that that's something that is not really spoken about as much within the political space. We're always talking about advocating and trying to grow and trying to develop Guyana and contributing to the outcome of, what we would like to see Guyana be. But I think we run away too often from the conversations that within politics, there's the popular saying now, whoever dubbed it, that, politics is not a church, and I go further to that, politics requires a different disposition. We all sitting here are professionals in our own right. And we're all, probably exemplify our various, disciplines that we operate within. But just like yourselves, I'm sure that when I came into the political sphere fully, there were certain realities that I had to, adjust my mind to. And one of those main realities that I had to adjust my mind to is that one, this whole thing is bigger than me. I could probably come out and I could be the best speaker, I could be the best talent, I could be the brightest talent in the party at the time. But if I do not appreciate the structure, if I do not appreciate the leadership, if I don't understand the importance of me complying with the structure and the rule of the day, then everything that we are attempting to achieve, whether, as Ronald said, it is good contributions you made or you had a great impact, by moving in a way that goes against what the current status quo is, you are creating more harm both inside and outside. And I think it requires more persons, and I think more or less the youths and the younger generation who are watching on, they need to understand that this is not necessarily the way that things should be done. Politics requires a lot of discipline, it requires a lot of resilience, because as you and I know and Ganesh knows, the decisions that are made will never please everybody. We're not in a consensus driven system whereby one decision is going to make everybody happy. There are always going to be various factions and persons and groups and persons with interest who will not necessarily appreciate. But when we take it upon ourselves to use our the things that we don't appreciate as a tool or to leverage it into getting a particular outcome, then we have walked away from the first fundamental rule in politics, which is that you must be loyal to the party that you are to. And the loyalty is not just being a member, but it is the loyalty to the leadership, because the leadership reflects the ideals of the party in the same way that the leadership of the country reflects who the country. I mean, if we're talking basic social studies, you learn that a president is elected. You do basic political science. You learn about democracy, wherein that the people make a decision to reflect what they want. And if a certain decision is made in relation to leadership, as I told Mr. Wendell Jeffrey when I had an interview with him a few weeks back, he posed the question to me. He posed the question to me and he said, what would you do if your party is engaged in something corruption or wherever? Will you speak out and the thing? And I told him,
I'm smiling because I remember that. And
yeah. And I told him, I said, hear me, look, as you rightfully said, and as Ganesh said, and as any experienced and trained politician will tell you, that there are rooms. Ganesh has a lovely analogy, and I'll let him use it. But he said, politics is like a house. You understand? You have certain people in your bedroom, and then you have certain people in your living room. Then you have certain people that are going to be downstairs in the yard. Then you have certain people that you only come to your gate. And that's the reality. With the certain people, that means that there will be certain forums and environments for you as a member of a party to express your issues and your concerns. But I think that, speaking holistically, we need to be more careful moving forward. And I speak this to myself too, because, we've seen people say things and then eventually it's used back against them. So I'm always guarded with what I say, especially in platforms like this. That we need to be careful that when we are participating and we are doing things, that the main objective is for the benefit of the party. Because sometimes you might not appreciate a decision, but when you remove yourself and you try to do an objective look at it, for as objective as you can look at it, in any case, you will realize that here's what. I probably don't like the decision, but you know what? My party likes that decision and I will go with it. And that is what is needed moving forward, because I'm concerned about my younger colleagues and the persons coming out to third form and fourth form who I've had the opportunity to speak to, and then they have these concerns and these queries, and they're going to be like, oh, but look, it seemed like y'all are fighting. Oh, it seemed like y'all, don't know. And you have to explain to them that here, as you said, their personalities, they're different individuals, and I cannot and I will not diminish what anybody feels or a decision they make based on something that they believe should have gone wrong. I could never chastise somebody for
I
that.
totally agree with
But
you.
as a member of a political organization, we need to ensure that we are not just leading because we can benefit from it, but we are leading because we understand that when we demit our positions, when we are no longer useful and we've gone into obscurity, you understand that another generation will be able to come and continue, because the main thing about politics is continuity. And I see a lot of people talking and commenting about our position in this race and how we got third. And as Ganesh noted, and I want us to shift gears into that, issue of the financing and how much, money has impacted this particular elections. We realize that, look, as much as we want to achieve certain things, there's a way in which we must attempt to achieve these things. And there's no perfect way. Anybody could tell you. And I learned that, there's no perfect way in doing anything. There's the way that works best, and there's the way that works most effective. And I believe that for the younger generation coming forward, we need to show them that politics is not just about the big fancy glasses, but it's about resilience. Because if you look at the results that we got, yes, we would have got the third most votes. But when we contextualize the elections with all of these people spending a lot of money, one person having or one party having access to the entire machinery of government, so they're able to operate on a wider scale than us. And amidst that, we are still able to come out with at least 12 seats out of 65 speaks a lot. That now, imagine now, if the playing field was somewhat leveled. Imagine now if we did not have these malfeasance and these issues that we will address, eventually. But imagine if this was not the case with this particular elections. It shows that the PNCR, while we may not have the best results, that we are still somebody to watch, and somebody
Certainly.
to watch very seriously. Because if that is how we can operate in an unideal environment, much less when we properly restructure, much less when we properly regroup, we will be a force to be reckoned with.
But Eden, this is not the first time the PNC is facing such, if you understand me. In
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
1992, I think my father told me that in 1992, it was actually rougher than what
Hmm.
it is right now. And well, I come from a long line of
Yeah,
PNCR
yeah, yeah.
members, so we would talk day in, day out about PNC and its politics. So 1992, those who were around would recall, or those who were around would know that there was a lot of people who were leaving also in 92, but they came back subsequently and so on. So it's nothing new. But Ronald made a leadership is a long, Corbin had to select 8 names because 4 were quite easy to select. The Region 5 name was easy to select, Detroit, Georgia. We basically wanted the seat as a Democratic candidate. Georgetown had 2, but there were 4 of them at the moment. From a list of 9, 2 we had to select there for the geographic representation 4, and Region 10 from a list of 4 we had to
This
select.
fucking thing
So
chunky
those
stuff, eh?
4 were way easier than the 8. And to select 8 names from a total of 160 something can never be something easy. Because all 160 plus, when they signed that form and they signaled their intent to be a national top-up candidate, it is with the expectation of being extracted. So it can never be easy. Personally, I would love to see extracted, I would love to see extracted, and several others. But all of that is constrained by the fact that it's 12 days. And within that 12, we have to also take into consideration national construct of the ethnic diversity, gender balance, what they bring to the table in terms of their profession, their expertise. All of these things are what Aubrey Norton had to consider to arrive at 8 names to be extracted from this document. And I want to segue now and talk about Aubrey Norton when he became a member of the party in 1977. Aubrey first became a member of parliament in 1997. He headed this party in 1972. And there are several other persons who have displayed fidelity and loyalty to the PNCR, but I can't recall if any of them was extracted to go to Parliament months after becoming a member of Parliament. I say that, months after becoming a member of Parliament. I say that because I want people to understand that there was one time when you were criticizing the party, you were putting people who just became members of the party into Parliament, and we saw where that took us.
Mhm.
I can talk about Natasha Singh Lewis. I can talk about Amanza Walton Desir.
Mhm.
I can talk about Geeta Chandan Edmund.
Mhm.
I can talk about Daniel Siram from Region 4, the chairman. And I can talk about several others who were catapulted,
Mhm.
and we were heavily criticized as a party.
Mhm.
And here we are now talking about the same thing again. So we have to choose. Do we want A or do we want B? What really do we want? But
Correct.
in the selection of the 12, it was very important for us to look at the national construct, and it was very important for it to be a reflection of moving into 2030 alongside giving the young, fresh leaders like yourself, like Rivaldo Birbal and several others, the opportunity to get to know and understand the party more.
Mhm.
This party has a prayer. I don't think several of those names I called earlier knows
That
it.
is correct. Yeah.
We have a party battle song. We have objects. We have a rich history. And sometimes when you embed yourself, familiarize and get to know and understand the party, then you value the party beyond yourself and your personal ambition.
And Ganesh,
And I want to
all right,
make
go ahead.
one other point I wanted to bring forward is that when Aubrey took leadership in 2021, he was met with criticism from day one. From day one, Aubrey Norton had an uphill battle with factions of the party. And he had to meander his way and dance between the raindrops from 2021. Faced with great criticism, Amna Ali, God rest the dead, was leading a charge against Aubrey. This is in the public space. This is not something that it's in the public space. And he had to deal with all of that. He had to also deal with several other factors. And then in 2023, when he ran again for leadership, he again secured majority of the votes from the membership of the party. And oftentimes I tell people that you go in the public space to speak your mind. Majority of the time what you say is front stage performance. The public is never exposed to the backstage performance. They don't know half of the story that happened backstage.
Mhm.
You come on the front stage and you speak from your perspective. But the membership of the party, they know more because they're there, they're part and parcel, and they know more than what you have actually said in the public space. And that's why when it comes to the Congress and the membership speak and the membership elect their leaders at the Congress, and it does not go in the direction that you were trying to chart it in the public space, it is because the membership knows more about the backstage performance than what you display in front stage. And I can tell you, I have looked at Freddie Kissoon program, and I saw the performance of my brother, Obraj Narain, and my other brother, Elson Lowe. I am disappointed, to be honest, that you will seek redress at a program that we know is pro PPP, that we know has constantly been criticizing the PNC. We know, Freddie, how he stands when it comes to our party and the lead, and they will find merit in extracting from you. And all you have done outside of seeking cheap fame is expose yourself and give Freddie Kissoon and Leonard Craig some sort of value because of what you said. But what you have really and truly done was to expose how weak you are by going on a forum like that. That is anti us.
Correct.
You could have done a live video. You could have gone on. You were known to do live videos and sit and talk. And why you didn't do a live video and let people and say what you are? Why you had to go with two people who are known anti-PNC? So the question has to be asked: are you really for the development, strengthening, and upbringing of a new, rebranded, restructured, rebuilding process of the PNCR, or are you one of the persons who believe that you should destroy the party? But I put them on notice. The party cannot be destroyed. We're 70 years old.
Correct.
We will rebuild, restructure, and rebrand and come stronger than ever. And I'm absolutely certain that once we do it the correct way, 2030 is ours to enjoy.
Correct. And I'm sure Comrade Leader Burn and all of the comrade leaders surrounding us currently would find much solace in your statements. But to just pick up that, and I want to direct this to you, Rana. I think my view is, I think the problem within the political space is that there is a misconception that the only measure of success is going to parliament, is being appointed a government minister, is getting some big, public office or something to hold. And I, just in my own work in the campaign, I've learned that there is much more reward and comfort in things outside of what we think as the mainstream measure or benchmarks of success. Like, you could be very successful politically and never touch parliament. And I think that is the particular issue that we have within, not just within the party, but within the country as a whole. Because, I mean, most of us here, it probably is not public news, but there are a lot of persons in the PPP who are not pleased with the current selection of ministers and cabinet appointees
But they're not going on
and
Freddie
MPs.
Kissoon, right?
But we have not seen them come out. But those of us who are familiar and are within the various circles, we know that there is great displeasure with the selection. And I think it's because there's this general and I would like you to comment on that, Ronald. There's a general misconception that the only benchmark of success politically is being able to hold a public office or to go into parliament. And I think it robs us, because parties have various groups and various groups that need leadership. Like, we have a youth arm, the YSM. Then there's the Women's Congress, you understand? And then we have other groups that need leadership, because at the end of the day, as Ganesh said, a party is going to select more persons to be on their list than they have positions to fill. So there must already be a disposition in your mind, even before the elections, that this here is not a guaranteed something. You're not guaranteed, the position. So
Before Ronald comes in, what struck me during this period of after the election to now, the PPP got 36 seats, Win got 16, and we got 12. And I have never seen so many or so much attention placed on 12. And they have not even spoken about the 16 and the 36.
Yeah.
So it's like there was a consolidated attack to see how best they can aim to destroy us. And some of us were vulnerable, and we exposed our stupidity, whilst others stayed the course, rallied with the PNCR, and will stay with the PNCR.
Correct.
Sorry to intervene.
But yes, right.
That's not a problem at all. I was telling somebody only recently, had we won all 65 seats, they would have still been disgruntled persons. because as you've said just now, and as the leaders repeated to us, that there will always be more people than there are positions. What we don't have in our political space is political maturity. And quite unfortunately, that spreads across the political spectrum. The young and even some of the persons who are perhaps mature in age, but not mature in outlook and mature in worldview and mature in political acumen. Systems and structures are important. You've just mentioned the YSM, the Youth Socialist Movement, and then we have the Women Revolutionary Socialist Movements. Now, these are ideological training grounds for persons who are intent on tangibly contributing to the political space because, like Thomas Sankara said, a soldier or a police without an ideology is a criminal with a gun. And we can translate that into the political space. If you don't have a concrete political ideology, and you don't come into the party today and have a concrete political ideology, tomorrow you have to go through the structure. So I think that a lot of our young people especially should be focusing on how they could grow in terms of the systems and structures in place. And we've already started taking steps to revitalize those structures so we can go on our recruitment drive and rebuild the party. We have to, our chief aspiration when we come into the political space should be to be a team player, to contribute towards the growth and the success of that team. And you have to be able to occupy until whatever space you occupy, you have to maximize in that space you occupy and occupy it with distinction. The party, any organization needs people at various levels. And if you perform maximally at any level you occupy at any given time, then you contribute to the holistic progress of that structure.
And the women arm, and coming back because I heard you saying YSM and the WRSM. So they're grounded in principles, but even those two organizations that are subsets of the PNC and the PNCR now, they have also matured or metamorphosed into changes that were effective for modernization. Like the YSM moved from being the YSM to GYSM. It's now the Guyana Youth and Student Movement because it aimed towards incorporating society as it was changing.
We did have those ideological
the ideological principle though remain. The WRSM moved to the NCW, the National Congress of Women. So the name change and the modernization of their respective constitutions that are all umbrellaed under the PNCR moved also, and there's no difference now with this party. The PNCR will also transition into a better political force. It will transition into a more structured way in terms of how to deal with current issues that we faced in elections 2025. And for that, we also need people like Aubrey Norton to be around to lead us the right way, because if you have institutional knowledge to charter the right course, then you will be able to make more informed decisions.
And he has a double advantage.
Yes,
he has the institutional knowledge, and plus he's a teacher by profession.
And I tell people, I said, you guys have not seen the beauty of Aubrey Norton. You have to be in a space with him when there is no camera, when there is no public audience, and you have an interaction with that. And you'll be moved. But no other leader of this party, no other contender for the presidential position ever had to deal with the win factor. The win factor was crucial because here is a single individual a multi-billionaire in our country that sought to enter the political realm of things to protect himself amidst all the other attacks that came, sanctions and what's not and what's not. He entered into the political arena, single-handedly funded his campaign, found ways and means to get into the minds of people. Money played its role exactly as we all know. The gentleman is not the most public of figure in terms of intellectual um, acumen, but he is a people's person, as you saw. You know, he hug a baby, he did whatever he had to do and so on. But no other political party and no other leader of any political party ever had to face that factor. It was always in the past PNC, PPP. When the AFC came on board, the AFC was really the PPP and PNC combined with Raphael Trotman, Kemraj, and Sheila Holder, and so on. So it was still strictly political people. So what that goes to show is that the population gravitated to a new face, but not necessarily a new benefit to them, because there wasn't anything in my view that was presented by the win factor that could give benefit to the population, but they gravitated to a new face. That's all. And the face that they gravitated to was a face that had money, or still do have money, and that's a critical factor in all of this. But like I said, a structure that is 70 years old cannot be depleted like that, will not be allowed to be depleted like that, and we will rise.
Both Ganesh and Eden, are you amenable to the view that even more than that face, the fact of having access to resources of that magnitude played a more significant role? And I think an oft overlooked dynamic of that is that our people, Guyanese people, have been so thoroughly economically marginalized, and they have been rendered so vulnerable that it made it possible for them to be affected in the way they were affected.
And that can be directly attributed to the PPP's 5 years in government, because and I think it worked against them in a sense, because they would have created an economic reality, as you noted, and it made every single person, or it made life a bit harder and more challenging for everybody. And now you have somebody with the golden ticket to the chocolate factory that's offering you everything, and even if he has not offered, you now have a reason to believe that, hey, it is possible that he could make my life a bit better. And
people actually told us, people actually told us on the campaign trail that they prefer the 30,000 now, because they got to buy milk and baby food. They need it now, as opposed to waiting on the policies and the directions that are so good on our part.
And that signals really poor leadership in relation to how the PPP has been running this country, because the people from Win, you understand, is a subset from them. It is a derivative that has now come from them now and has turned against the tide and has put us in a very unorthodox position. But you talked about new phase, and I would like to just change that up. What now is your view, both Ronald and Ganesh, on the new phase of the PNCR moving forward? What are the things that we are going towards now, and the things that we plan to do better in the coming days?
Well, I want to say, first of all, that as a political party, first and foremost, the PNCR, and people ought to understand the distinction between the PNCR and the APNU. The APNU is an umbrella organization that has several political parties inside of it. The PNCR happens to be the largest political party in the APNU. So I will extract the PNCR right now and speak definitively to PNCR. The PNCR has to strengthen membership from the grassroots level. There's no doubt that our membership has grown significantly from 18,000 plus to 23,000 plus under Aubrey Norton's leadership. He has been on the ground, he has been meeting with comrades, and he has been spreading that message of strengthening our group membership. And we have to continue to strengthen the group membership. Our group membership will be our foundation that strengthens our structure at the top. So our group membership is important. Our participation in the communities via the groups, they have to be more involved in the communities. They have to be sensitized more, and they have to be you have to provide more information to them so that they will be able to help spread the message. You cannot sit at the top on a pedestal and think that there is where everything is going to trickle down. Even this forum that we're here, even this medium through Nation Watch, all of our members, it doesn't reach all of our members.
Correct.
So we have to have a more grassroots type orientation towards rebuilding, and that began, I wouldn't lie to you, that began under Aubrey. That really, for me, started to slide away from us in 2011. And 2011 to 2020, I think that degree of involvement of the groups and the party structure started to slide away. And it was Aubrey in 2021 that actually began to refocus the energy to the grassroots level. We need to intensify that in the art of rebuilding. Restructuring simply means that we have to head to the Congress and let the membership speak. Let the membership speak in terms of what is it that they want. If they see that there is a need for us to change how our structure is, because right now our structure is leader, chairman, 2 vice chairs, treasurer, 15 CEC members. The Constitution gives way for 10 co-op members, 5 from the CEC and 5 from the leader, and then you have representatives from the NCW, the GYSM. If that structure, after intense discussion, requires some degree of change, the Congress has to decide that. That's something we have to respect. Our Congress is empowered to do that. And when we talk about rebranding, it is all about presenting the new leadership team. It's all about presenting. Everybody has their time in the sun, and when your time is up, you ought to transition, to move forward, to give way, to make space for brighter, younger, nicer, and all of the other good words you could possibly use to present a brand that is going to be easily buyable, you know. But I always say we must never throw away the old for the new. The old has to give us the institutional knowledge. They have to tell us about the past so that it can inform the present and charter a strong future on the way forward. So I will always embrace people like Hamilton Green, people like Aubrey Norton, Jeffrey Thomas, you name the old stalwarts that are still alive, still kicking and still strong with this party. Their institutional knowledge, their memory, their direction is critical for us here in the present to ensure we have a strong future.
Thank you, Ganesh. And Ronald, in closing.
Good. So I think Ganesh has comprehensively and quite powerfully articulated.
As he always does.
As he always does. I would just like to say by extension, we have already, as Ganesh has indicated, we are already on the ground. We have been listening to the people, and we're sensitive to what the people want to see. But the people want us to continue to maintain that relationship with the communities. And we've already started responding to some of these crises. And in that vein, it's really important that, you know, we focus on becoming financially self-sufficient as an organization. The dynamics of politics is radically changing, right? And people have real issues, and they're not always going to get assistance and solutions from the government. So they're looking to us, even at the party level, to help them to alleviate some of those challenges. So it's important that we amass those resources so that we can contribute to some of these alleviation drives. Also, it's important that we build capital with some of these civil society organizations. And that is one of the things we'll be rigorous in doing as well, right? Not just maintaining that one-on-one grassroots relationship,
Mm-hmm.
but maintain relationships with these representative institutions
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ronald. Thank you so much, Ganesh. Followers, listeners, supporters, comrades, all, it is with a heavy heart.
You want to scrabble, you know,
It is with a heavy heart that we have come to the end of today's program of Nation Watch. In summary, what we have presented to you today was a very candid discussion amongst three individuals within the party of the People's National Congress Reform. And if it is one takeaway you must go with, is that we are here, we are ready, we are not going anywhere, and we will continue to advocate for a people centered Guyana in any shape, way, or form that we can achieve it. It has been a pleasure. My name is Eden Corbin, and you have been on Nation Watch. Thank you.